find a coach, learn from other people's mistakes. My daddy always told me, he goes, mistakes are okay, just don't keep making the same one over and over. And the best mistakes to learn from are somebody else's. If you're stubborn and pig-headed and you want to beat yourself bloody on running into problems, don't get a coach, don't get a mentor.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
On today's show, we have Shawn Griffith. Shawn, we're so glad you're with us. Thanks for being on.
Hey, guys, really appreciate the invite. Looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely, Shawn. Well, yeah, thanks again for being on the Road Less Traveled Show. We'd like to, start just a little bit of your background. What initial career did you go down, and how long were you in that industry?
Okay, so I'm going to give you the short version of a very long story. When I was in high school, I enlisted in the delayed entry program and applied for a scholarship. I'm sure you'll be utterly shocked to know that the government screwed up the paperwork on the scholarship. And by the time they got it straightened out, I was already through electronics school, discharged, went to my school, commissioned, went in the Navy for 4 years, got out and was planning on going back home to East Tennessee to work. 0 jobs at that time. Everybody had a hiring freeze on. Ended up coming down to Dallas to work for Texas Instruments, worked for them for about 9.5 years until they sold their defense group to Raytheon. Moved from there into what I called a period of creative unemployment. I did some access database babysitting and some other things like that, and ended up over at Southwest Airlines on a consulting gig. They liked me, hired me full-time. Worked for Southwest in IT in various functions for 14 years. Had enough time in to retire because my dad needed some help. I retired from Southwest, went back to help him for a couple of years and did some contract gigs. After he passed away, ended up coming back to Dallas and did IT consulting for a number of years. And finally, last August, I finally had to tell the consulting company, hey guys, I can't work for you anymore. My CPA says it's a really good year for me to be a real estate professional. So I dove into real estate head first at that point and haven't looked back.
Excellent. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about the transition into real estate? What are you focused on in that area?
Sure, absolutely. Some transitions, people just do a hard cut. This was a transition that was about 9 years in the making. My wife and I started passively investing to try to start building up some other income outside of our regular W-2 income. And, at that point, we were invested in probably a little over 3,000 doors. And last March of 2021, we found a syndication program that we liked, and we dove in headfirst. Closed on our first property in November. It was 86 units in Cleburne, Texas. And about 2 weeks ago, we closed on our second property, which is in Haltom City, which is just outside Fort Worth.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So Shawn, as you look back perhaps to your days in the IT world, that type of thing, you made the decision. Obviously, you got to a point where it was the right thing for you to exit. But is there something that you experienced, maybe a humorous story along the way that you can share that made you kind of question why you were doing that field?
Well, there's a couple of them. One was when I first started at Southwest Airlines. I hadn't been there very long, and I was working on our back office financial system, and our credit card billing system went down. Mm-hmm. So as with most businesses, if all your income is coming in pretty much through credit cards and your cash flow goes to zero, that's a very bad thing. At the time, Herb Kelleher was the CEO, president, and chairman of the board. And Herb was literally walking up and down the aisles going, Hey guys, do you need anything? Can I get you a Pepsi? It's like, we really wanted to go, Herb, thank you. We love you, but get the hell out of here and let us work, Yeah. He really meant well. I mean, we know he did, because Herb was a very gracious individual. Mm-hmm. But that was one of the stories, because we were literally working around the clock. And, and that was one of those things. I'm going like, yeah, I was much younger then. I'm going, okay, it's not that big a deal. I'll sleep later.
Right.
Now, not so much. I don't like those long hours, and having to, be on the pager.
Mm-hmm.
That was always the worst, because invariably you'd have a long day and you'd have the pager, which also made for a long night.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good, Bill.
Oh, I was going to show. What was kind of an exciting factor in helping you change paths? It sounded like you said it was kind of a 9-year process. Did you start to see the possibility how the passive investing was going and became more interested in the syndication side, or how did that transpire?
Well, that transpired November of 2020. My wife and I were sitting around the kitchen table talking to each other, going through our finances, talking about retirement. And we realized that the bill of goods that Wall Street and corporate America had sold us on a good retirement was not all it was cracked up to be. While, doing, in throwing your money into your 401k is better than not investing in anything at all. But we realized that if we were going to have, the retirement that we'd been sold, is we would have to cut back on our standard of living. We wouldn't be able to travel as much, and we wouldn't be able to give to our church and the charities that we wanted to support like we wanted to. And we realized, hey, if we're going to live like we want to live, we're going to have to do something else to improve our income. And we looked at several different things, and our 9 years experience in real estate at that point, we're going, let's leverage that and see if we can take that to the next level. And syndication, after we did a lot of research, syndication was kind of that logical choice of, hey, let's do a few of these, juice our net worth and our income, and then in a few years, then we'll be in a much better position to retire the way we want to on our terms.
Nice.
I think it's, yeah. I think a lot of people, as you're saying, I think kind of get down and do the math, and you look at single family homes and like, make $100, $150 a month, and you start realizing the scale you'd have to get to have a truly livable income, and there's a lot of obstacles with that big of a portfolio of single family homes versus, like you said, if you can do it in the apartment, just the law of large numbers makes it so much more viable.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a couple of other nuggets that you touched on that I want to just mention for a quick minute. And first of all, that is that, the bill of goods, you're so right. I mean, everybody is, okay, when ERISA happened in 1974, that law changed where essentially we became responsible for our own retirements rather than the company pension. That was a huge change that some people still don't understand. You're responsible for your own retirement. Yes, there's Social Security, but really, is there? Is it something we're ever going to collect? Who knows? But besides that, you're supposed to take care of your own retirement by investing through 401ks, which was a boon to Wall Street, of course. The law funneled all this money into Wall Street. And, the ads it's beat into people's heads that that's the only way to invest. That's the safe way to invest, et cetera. And again, you get choice from 3 mutual funds, and they're all in the toilet these days with just how the market is. But anyway, besides that, it's amazing. Again, there are other things out there that you can, not that difficult to get into, some sort of real estate or some sort of other areas. And again, real estate's called an alternative investment, which is humorous because last I checked, real estate was there before stocks. So, I find that label interesting. But then again, there was another point I was going to touch on, but I lost it. I'll come back to it if I think of it. But
okay.
Again, yeah, but you're so right. There are other things out there, and it's not impossible if you put the effort in to learn how to be part of real estate. So, yeah.
Well, and that's it. Richard, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Is you have to learn, and right. People go, oh, somebody gave me a statistic the other day that I have not verified, but do you know what the average number of nonfiction books an adult reads after they've graduated college?
Staggeringly low.
It's less than 1. It's like 0.9.
Yeah.
And, people just don't want to educate themselves. I try to read, bare minimum a book a month. My dad instilled in us a rule that you don't go to bed at night until you've learned something new. And it doesn't have to be anything earth shattering. And, it doesn't have to be a complete, oh, gee, I have a total understanding of quantum physics. Now I can go to bed. It might be, hey, I learned what a quark is today, or, I learned how to, alternatively fund a real estate investment. You don't have to know all the ins and outs, but, for the longest time, I didn't even know there was such a thing as pref equity. Or family offices, and there's so much money out there trying to get into real estate. You just have to learn how to go find it, and that fallacy that you build it and they will come, or you get a great deal and the money will show up, is just that. It's a fallacy.
Yeah.
You have to have those relationships in place when you have the deal.
Right.
Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that.
No, absolutely. Richard and I, we would talk about all the time too. I forget the Japanese saying right now, but that constant continuous improvement, right? Small incremental improvement over time adds up to, a sea change and what your knowledge, your outlook paths are.
Yeah, it's Kaizen.
The Kaizen. Yeah. And that's the thing I love about the Japanese is most Japanese companies have a 75 or 100-year plan. And, Americans are in general, and I include myself in that group, are lucky to plan past next week.
Yeah. Some people don't even get past planning for after dinner, so yeah, it is amazing. You definitely have to, again, education is the key. That's certainly how we got into the space, learning everything we needed to know about it, building relationships. And, again, no offense to anybody who doesn't have the time to go and learn some of these things, but at the same point in time, by dipping your toe in the water a little bit and learning about folks like us that do syndications, there's a wealth of possibilities right there for that person. And again, that doesn't mean that they have to go earn a master's in finance to be able to, be a passive investor, learn, learn about it. Absolutely. Learn, get to know your sponsors and that you can trust them. And that's critical. But at the same point in time, you don't need that master's to go and do this.
And, and if any of your listeners ever want to, just talk about real estate and what it takes to get into passive investing, I'm always happy to talk to people. I don't care if they invest with me or not. Matter of fact, a lot of people, I tell them, hey, you're really not suited to invest in real estate at this time. I said, you need to do A, B, and C. Which, it could be, hey, you need to have a little more liquidity so that, you're not throwing all your money, because I don't want to take somebody's last nickel from their emergency fund and invest it in an apartment, because if they need it back, you're not going to get it back. Real estate is especially apartment investing through syndication, is a fairly illiquid asset.
Right.
So they need to understand things like that. I don't want to take every investor that wants to throw money at me.
Sure.
Now,
exactly.
I wish there were investors throwing money at me, but that's a different problem. You need to make sure, and that's why there's some of those SEC rules about us needing to know and have a relationship, because I typically do the 506B syndications, which you cannot advertise. Versus the, like if you guys are doing a fund, I'm assuming it's a 506C.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you can, but there's ways to work around that as well.
Yeah. So Shawn, maybe the next question, let's, as you shifted from your IT world and your contracting, and obviously you took care of the business doing that. And as you shifted over to the real estate and you were passive for a while, like you mentioned, then you started doing actually your own deals as a syndicator. Were there some obstacles you encountered initially on the way?
Some obstacles. Oh, absolutely. And you'd mentioned something earlier about, not wanting to offend the people that don't have time. I'll just take care of that for you right now. I will offend the people that say they don't have time. And that's, get off your ass, take 10 minutes every night when you get home, even if you don't want to, and spend that 10 minutes learning something about real estate or something about how to invest in something else. Will that put you in a better position tomorrow? Probably not. But once you develop that habit of taking that 10 minutes every night, that adds up. And a very good analogy that somebody gave me was that, there's a farmer that when he drives out to feed the cattle every evening, drives the same path, every day. And then at some point, he's driven that path so many times, he can just put the tractor in the ruts and let it go, and it'll drive out there by itself. If you alter that path by just half a degree, you'll end up somewhere completely different. And, you have to start and make that time. I don't care if it's 5-10 minutes a night.
Yeah.
You have to, if somebody is really serious about wanting to make a change in their financial future, they need to take that time and do it.
Right.
But anyway, back to obstacles. Time was one of my obstacles. I had to make myself go, hey, when Teri and I made the decision to dive into the syndication head first, we committed a minimum of 2 hours a night, which was initially spent on studying, going through the training material, networking, making connections, and just really learning what is this thing called syndication. What does it mean for me as a syndicator? What do I need to know? And which brings me, I'll put a plug in for Dan Sullivan's book, Who, Not How. That was a great book. And if people ask themselves, how do I solve this problem? That's the wrong question. The question you need to be asking is, who can I talk to that has already solved this problem, or who can help me solve this problem? Right. And it changes your focus on, what do I have to do, to who do I need to know, or who can help me? And I've learned very much that real estate is a team sport. I tried to do a lot of it myself, and the more I did that, the less progress I made. And I started realizing I need to reach out to people. I need to start forming teams. I need to network. And that was probably my biggest, aha, was going, I don't have to do it all myself. So I guess my biggest obstacle to start with was me.
Yeah, right. Sure. There's a real quick, Bill. There's a I think it's a Jim Rohn quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I don't have the exact words, but it's something along the lines of, your level of success will rarely exceed your level, the degree to which you invest in yourself and educate yourself and self-improve. You've got to put the effort in. Again, I love that. Just 10 minutes a day. Just put 10 minutes a day to learning something new about, and if it's real estate, great. If it's something else, if it's crypto, whatever, learn something to help, take control of your own future, your own retirement. Learn something that will help support that. And again, you'll be far better off than if you didn't spend some time on it. Right. So.
Well, I mean, to your point too about the tractor analogy, that slight degree, 1 degree off change exponentially over time, how that diverges from the path you're originally on. I mean, that's the whole story about the person, right, that everybody looks at and like, oh, wow, it's overnight success. Well, 20 years later, right? You put all the effort in, and 20 years later, you're an overnight success with the same people. Other people got stuck in the same rut and the same pattern, which people become creatures of habit. And if you make the conscious effort to change. But the same thing we always talk about too, that, we're not, even though we do real estate, we say we're not in the real estate business, we're in the relationship business. Because at the end of the day, it's all your contacts, people that, you can ask questions for, people that, that you can help, that can help you. There's, it's very, like you said, it's a team sport all around.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Shawn, what was one of the first victories as you started down the new path that you can look back on and realize, well, yes, we've made the right decision. This is achievable. Can you?
I think I realized that it was starting to become real when I actually submitted my first LOI, my first letter of intent on a property. And I had gone through the process. I had my buyer broker with me, and I had, my property manager with me that came and toured the property. And, because by that point I realized I'm not in this by myself. I have help. Now, I didn't win that one. It was, I underwrote it at it was like a 71 unit property. I underwrote it at about 5.2 million. They were asking 6. I felt bad for a while until I ran into a broker that I know at one of Old Capital's events. And we were talking, and he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "I know that property." He goes, "I underwrote that about a month and a half ago. A guy wanted me to sell it, and I told him I wasn't going to sell it because he wanted too much." I go, "Well, what'd you get for it?" He said about 5.1 million. And I'm going, okay, that makes me feel better. It ended up going for 6.8. That's just how crazy the pricing was here in Dallas, and still is to some extent.
Yeah.
But that's when I realized, hey, I'm on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. We
pay dividends, right, over time. I mean, you being disciplined and sticking to your guns.
Yeah.
That's going to come back, tenfold. People will see that you're not chasing just transactional volume, that you really are being disciplined in it, and those people are going to be around during the next correction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy something that something happens, like the interest rates going through the roof, and now I can't afford to pay the loan on my property, because once you get that black mark on your record, there's not too many lenders that are going to lend you money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I'm sure that would never happen. I'm sure the Fed's way ahead of all that. We haven't printed trillions of dollars here recently or anything.
Yeah. So the very first LOI that Bill and I wrote, we actually pulled because we realized after we sent it in that we made a mistake in our underwriting, and we literally rescinded the offer just because we didn't want to proceed forward. Even if we got the property, we didn't want the property because we made some fundamental errors. So we pull it. We'd rather, pull the ripcord and back out. Or again, it wasn't to contract. It wasn't an accepted LOI, but we pulled it before we accidentally got it, because we realized it wasn't the property for us.
Yeah. And that's a great point, Richard. Until people start taking action,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's, doing a little bit of research and investing in their first deal as a passive investor, or, diving in head first and, going and buying a property, you have to step out and start taking that action to know, are you doing the right things or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, just to touch on that one a little further, that was the issue with that was we had the value add plan, raising rents, improving the units. And it came down to, when we really started digging hard into it, was the local area demographics that the income wouldn't support, that they can't support the rent bump. So we really, that's a high level filter at this stage. We always look at what the 1 mile household income and all that is to see if they can support the kind of renovations we're looking at. And that we kind of had it reversed back then. We had a big plan, but it wouldn't be implemented in that particular demographic because the incomes were so low.
Yeah. So Shawn, as you are in the real estate space now, maybe go back as in your LP days, or or certainly as a sponsor now. Is there a humorous story you can share? Something funny?
Yeah. So my very first property that we invested in was a little property called New Orleans. It's in Carrollton, Texas, and it was, I want to say, 68 units. Boiler chiller property.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I learned not to be scared of boilers and chillers. You just have to know the ins and outs a little bit and plan for it. But one of the funny things with that investment, before I got into it, the friend of mine that introduced me to it gave me the PPM, and when I read it, it scared the hell out of me. And I told the guy, I said, "Well, what is all this stuff?" He goes, since this is your first time investing in this, I really recommend you go talk to an SEC attorney. He goes, and he recommended me to one. So I called the guy and said, "Hey, I've got this PPM. I'd like you to review and tell me, does it have all the right parts? Is it a good document?" And then I want you to sit down with me and explain it to me in English. And he goes, I can do that. I said, okay, what do you charge me? He goes, I'll give you a flat fee, $500. And I said, done deal. So I sent it to him. He reviewed it. We sat down and he was going through it. And he got to that 14 or 15 pages of all the things that can go wrong with a real estate deal. He goes, these next 14 or 15 pages are all reasons you should not invest in this deal. And he goes, the only reason you should let this scare you is if it's missing from the PPM, because he goes, that should be a huge red flag. He goes, what these pages should do is they should cue you on questions you should ask your sponsor, like, how are you mitigating all of these things? Yeah. And honestly, 90% of them are mitigated by having the correct insurance and by doing your due diligence up front.
Right.
But I that was kind of funny, and I blame that lawyer who actually does all of my SEC paperwork to this day for my real estate habit.
That's a good one. So again, just in case somebody doesn't know, private placement memorandum, PPM. And it's required for syndications, whether it be a 506B or whether it be a 506C. It's the key document that, the investor needs to, see, review, and understand. It doesn't mean you need to go to law school to understand every word, but certainly, to your point, do your own due diligence around those things. There are risks but there's a lot of success. And, I think we all know why we like real estate, for the tax benefits, for, lots of reasons. But anyway, we're not going to go in too far into that. But anyway, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We could be here for the next several hours.
Right. I mean, and everything has risk, right? I mean, you get a mutual fund, there's disclosures. I mean, every investment has risk. I mean, there's a zero free rate of risk. And then everything on top of that is some layer of risk, they perceived real or just perceived level to it. Well, Shawn, where are you today on your journey in your current new transition to your career?
Well, so like I said, we dove in head first March of last year. I was still working my W-2 job as a IT consultant. Was actually doing a gig for Southwest Airlines, and got down toward July, and our CPA had said earlier in the year, hey, this would be a really good year for you to be a real estate professional. And as soon as we got our first property under contract, which was mid-July, we went ahead and I gave my notice to the contracting agency saying, hey guys, it's been a fun run, but I can't work for you anymore. I need the hours in my real estate business.
Right.
And anybody that's even remotely thinking about being a real estate professional, start tracking your hours today. I don't care if it's 30 minutes once a week. Get in the habit of writing down everything you do and keeping track of those hours. Your CPA will love you.
Yeah. So you've transitioned, and then what are your future plans as you grow your business? What are you looking to scale, different markets, or?
Well, I'm not looking to be the next Grant Cardone. I don't need a jet with a big SG on the back of it or anything. I mean, that, not to say that wouldn't be cool, but that's not me. That's not my thing. We are going to grow the business a little, but honestly, Teri and I are reaching that point where we're getting close to retirement, and we want to try to put as many things on autopilot as possible. We're probably going to do, at least one more deal this year as a general partner. And then we're probably going to dial things back just a little to where we're only doing one or at most two deals a year, primarily for the tax benefits.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Our goal is to get to and stay at zero tax as long as humanly possible.
Right.
Legally, of course.
Legal, of course. Exactly. Yeah. So Shawn, as you're look at what you're doing with the real estate, and is there something that maybe personally or through the real estate that you do to give back to others?
Yeah, one of the things we try to do is, when we hire a property management team, we want to make sure that they have a good program in place, to get the residents socially involved in the community. We also work with local churches in the area to make sure they know they are welcome on our property. Because not everybody's willing to go and reach out when they need help of any kind. But we invite the churches to come in and put on events and things like that.
Okay.
And then, from a personal standpoint, Teri and I work with our local church. Matter of fact, Teri's on our mission outreach board, and does a lot of their planning and organizing, which is what she does for us as well. She's the planner and organizer. I'm the networker and going out and meeting and greeting, because I get energy from that. I enjoy things like this.
Yeah.
Doing this would kill her. She'd be sitting here just going, "Oh, when are we going to get done?" But I love her to death. She's great at planning and organizing. She plans out all of our vacations way out in the future, like
nice.
A year and a half, 2 years in advance. But yeah, we, and we have a couple of charities that we both like to support. So, we make it a habit every quarter to review our finances and, take part of our income and, give it to our charities and our church.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, what's something you've recently implemented in your business that's allowed you to scale and grow? You mentioned transitioning. You want to put this more on autopilot in a few years as you do more traveling. Is something you've recently implemented that's kind of helped you with that automation?
So we have 4 kids between us, a boy and 3 girls. We offered all 4 of the kids an opportunity to invest alongside us when we were doing our passive investing. We only had one taker, and that was the youngest boy. He's 28. Yeah, 28. So 27, 28, 29, 30. Yeah. So he has a plan to be retired by the time he's 40, or at least have the option. Out of all of the kids, he's the most likely one to make that. And he expressed interest in the business, and we started talking to him about it. And we actually ended up hiring him. He does a lot of our initial underwriting. I can't remember the last time that I took numbers from a T12 and a rent roll and loaded it into our analyzing spreadsheet, because he does all that. And he just drops it in my folder for review, and then I go through and then we usually about once a week we'll get together and review the numbers and say, okay, well, here's where I'm tweaking this, here's why I'm tweaking that. So he's learning how to fine tune it. So I figure at some point I'm not even going to have to underwrite, because quite honestly, he's better at numbers and much more detail oriented than I am. He's more like his mother, which is a great thing. But when we were talking to him about compensation, he kind of started rubbing his chin and looked up at the ceiling, and then he looked back at me and he goes, "Can you guys pay me an equity in a deal?" And I go, "Yes." He gets it. So, and after we told him yes, then we called our CPA and go, "Okay, well, what's the best way to make this happen?" And he goes, "Probably the best thing is just advance him whatever you want him to invest as part of his salary. So you're just doing a salary advance, and then he can invest it in his own name." Well, we did that. We advanced him like $25K on his salary, and he invested that in our first deal. He watches that deal like a hawk. He knows more about that property than I do, and I'm the asset manager.
Nice.
Right.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic. So
eventually we want to turn the entire operations over to him.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
That's great. That's great that he's learning early and very engaged in it in the process. So excellent.
Yeah.
Good. So Shawn, what advice would you give somebody who's considering making a path change?
Probably the biggest thing that moved the needle for us was finding a mentor and a coach that you resonate with. There are dozens, if not hundreds of them out there. Do your own research. Obviously I like mine. There's some things that he does that I don't like, but that's probably true of anybody I've ever met. It's kind of like a band, right? I don't like all their music, just most of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, find a coach, learn from other people's mistakes. My daddy always told me, he goes, Mistakes are okay. Just don't keep making the same one over and over. And the best mistakes to learn from are somebody else's.
Love that.
So, get a coach, get a mentor if you're really looking to shorten your timeline.
Mm-hmm.
If you're stubborn and pig-headed and you want to beat yourself, bloody on running into problems, don't get a coach, don't get a mentor. Do it the hard way.
Yeah. Like I said, you're just, compressing time, right? You're shortening the learning loop because.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, great, Shawn. What's the best way for our listeners to be able to reach out to you and learn more about what you're involved in and what projects you have coming up?
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, Bill, probably the best way to get a hold of me is go to my website and book a call. It's TWT Multifamily.com, and that's Tango Whiskey Tango Multifamily.com /book-a-call.
Okay. Well, very good. And we'll put links in the show notes to make that even easier to contact you. Well, Shawn, very good. We appreciate you being on the Road Less Traveled show, and really enjoyed the conversation, and we wish you continued success.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you guys inviting me. This has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for being on, Shawn. Do appreciate it. And we'd also like to especially thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like Shawn Griffith today. We'd also like to thank Park Capital Partners that sponsors the show. And we'd also like to remind everybody we got 2 important things that are out there, which is first, we've created the Park Capital Value Add Fund, which is a 506c fund open to accredited investors. We are taking investments now, and we welcome you to join us. And then secondly, we also created the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501(c) nonprofit that we created last year. And to do that and to keep that running, Bill and I, through Park Capital Partners, fund the operations of the foundation. So all the money donated goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Secondly, we also personally donate to it. We also donate a portion of our profits to it. And then finally, when an investor invests with us, we make a donation to honor that investor and give them the choice to pick from a predetermined list of about 15 different charities. And that, again, is just something we believe strongly in. We've been blessed with many, many gifts, and we really believe it's a responsibility and an obligation to give back. So that's how we do it. So again, please, thank you. We appreciate everybody joining today. Again, thanks again for being on, Shawn. And remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.